Ladies and gentlemen, in light of the situation we find ourselves in today, and in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, to begin our evening, I call upon the Associate Dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center and prominent member of our congregation, who literally just got off the plane from Israel this afternoon, to lead us in the prayers for the welfare of the State of Israel and the Mishaberach for the Israel Defense Forces. Kindly please rise.
Avinu Shabashamayim Tzo Yisrael V'Go'alo Barech et Medinat Yisrael Reishit Tzmichat Geulatenu Hagen Alea B'Brachastecha Ufros Alea Sukat Shlomecha Ushlach Orcha B'Mitcha L'Rashea Sareh B'Yotzeha V'Takneim B'Eitzat Tova Milfanecha Chazek et Yidei Miginei Eretz Kodshenu V'Anchilei Melheni Yeshua V'Ateret Nitzachon Tatereim V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz V'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha V'yatachenu kol b'Yisrael v'kodna b'chol atzot b'zureihem v'tolichem mehira komiyut l'tzion arecha v'Yerushalayim mishkan shemecha kakatuv v'torat Moshe avdecha im yiyeridacha b'ktzei hashemayim misham mikabetzcha Adonai Elohecha misham mikachecha v'viacha Adonai Elohecha el haaretz asher yeshu avotecha v'yirishnecha v'yevdecha v'yirbecha mi'avotecha v'yached l'vavenu li'ahava li'yirat shemecha Lishmor ekol divrei Tortecha, Ushlach lana mehira ben David Mashiach Zikecha, Liftod mechakikei tzishuatecha. V'hofa v'adar g'onosecha al kol yoshvei tevel atzecha. V'yomar kol asher neshama b'yapo, Adonai Elohei Yisrael melech, u'malchuto v'kol mashallah, amen selah. Mi sheberach avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, v'yivarech et chayilei tzva hagana liYisrael, ha'omdim al mishmar artzenu v'arei Eloheinu, migvul ha'lebanon v'ad midbar Mitzrayim, miyan ha'yam ha'gedola ad levo ha'arava, v'yabasha ba'avir v'yam v'kol makom shehem. Yitain Adonai Davenu ha'kamim aleinu nigafim lifnehem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmor v'yatzil et chayaleinu. Mikol tzara v'tzukah, mikol nega machala, v'yishlach baracha v'atzlacha b'chol masei yidehem. Yadber saneinu tachteim, v'yatereim b'chet ha'yeshua, v'yateret nitzachon. V'kuyam behem hakatuv, ki Adonai Elohechem, ha'olech imachem, l'ilachem imavechem, l'hoshia etchem, v'nomar amen.
You may be seated. And Amir Hashem, all of our prayers will be answered. And this Purim, we will once again prevail upon the evil Amalek. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Erev Tov and Bruchim Habaim. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 26th annual Banquet of the Young Israel of Century City, the shul that keeps Purim more than just once a year, keeps it most of the year. I am proud to be your master of ceremonies for this evening, and I'm certain that each and every one of you will have a most enjoyable time here tonight. There will be food, great food, music, comedy, and speeches. Yes, lots and lots of speeches. Tonight, we are pleased to honor a most deserving couple, our esteemed past president and his lovely wife. Let's hear it for Sammy and Rivki Mark, our Tribute Award honorees. Their devotion to our shul in particular and countless worthwhile institutions in our community and throughout the world is an inspiration to us all. We also bestow a Lifetime Achievement Award to our very own Mr. Herman Kleinman. So well deserved for all that he does for our shul. You will, of course, hear more about our honorees throughout the evening. The banquet committee is fully aware that some of you would probably have been curled up in front of your TV watching the closing ceremonies of the Olympics. The pomp, the glitz, the athletes, rather than being at a shul banquet. What is with you people? You're going to have a much, much better time here tonight. But to make you feel better and like you're not missing anything out, let's quickly review some of the Olympic events of the past 2 weeks. First, there's the uphill Kiddush event. That's when you go to Young Israel and you have to reach across the table to grab a piece of kugel in record time. Then who's won that? Who's asking that? And then, of course, there's the downhill Haftorah slalom. That's when 50 men run out of shul through one little door to grab a schnapps. And finally, where's that rowdy table? Will you guys stand up? And finally, there you are, okay. And finally, the Banquet Olympics. The Banquet Olympics, when you have to decide how many banquets you will go to in 1 month. The record thus far is 18. So there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be quite an event tonight, and all of your attendance has made this a most successful banquet, and your participation and your support of our Young Israel is greatly appreciated. Let's begin with a little bit of housekeeping first. I now call upon the beautiful Daphne Orenshein, who will tell you all about tonight's exciting raffle and auction. We thank Craig Levine, Howard Lefkowitz, and Jonas Hanlon for all their assistance in arranging the gifts for tonight's raffle. Please welcome Daphne Orenshein.
I was totally ready. So once in band camp, that was Jonathan's joke. Okay, Mazel Tov to Mr. and Mrs. Mark and Mr. Kleinman on being honored tonight. About 5 years ago, 2 men named Howard Lefkowitz and Alan Jacoby, anybody remember him? Asked me a favor at this very moment, could you just go around and collect little tickets from people at the table? And okay, they said, whatever you do, make sure you get credit card information or check or cash on the spot. No one is allowed to say, bill me, and the shul will bill them later. No. I said, okie dokie, no problem. Went to the first table, some gentleman that I didn't know very well gave me his little yellow paper, which we'll talk about in 1 second, and he just wrote his first name and 10 tickets. And I said, sir, I really need you to fill out the credit card information or the check or cash. And he said, it's okay. My name's good. So my first time, I already messed it up. So I went back to Howard and Alan and I said, okay, first man said his name is good, so the shul can bill him, right? I said, no, you go right back and you tell him you've got to get credit card or check or whatever. Okay. So I went back to the man. I said, sir, I really just need your credit card or check. And he said, just tell them my name is good. I said, what is your name? And he said, Saul Teichman. So he said, I said, oh, you know, I see the hair, I see the resemblance, I know Alan, okay. He said, so is my name good? I said, your name is great, but you still need to pay with credit card or check. And he did, and Saul and Ruth Teichman, their name is still good to this name. Okay, how does the raffle work? Very simple. You write your name, your credit card information, or your check, or whatever. Actually, I think, Rebecca, wherever you are, can they write bill me? Depends on the name. Okay, you just buy, I'm talking still. Okay, you just check off the number of tickets that you want. You don't get to choose the prize you want. At the end of the evening, we're gonna call off the prizes. There's some great things. Gift certificate to Pat's Restaurant, a DVD player, CD player, leather handbag. Thank you, Mark Mintz, for helping me arrange this speech. It's just going brilliantly. And my helpers will come around and pick up the yellow tickets. Please fill them out. It's a lot of fun. I win every year, and it's not fixed. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Daphne. I hope all of you buy tickets, and I hope you have a lot of luck. Friends, we have received a number of proclamations from the City of Los Angeles and from the County of Los Angeles, both to the Marks, Sammy and Rivki, and to Mr. Kleinman. Let me show them to you, everybody. Look how nice this is. This is from the County of Los Angeles to Mr. Herman Kleinman. And we have the same one for Sammy and Rivki, and then we have, from the City of Los Angeles, a certificate of tribute to Sam and Rivki Mark and to Herman Kleinman. So we present these to you at the end of the evening, our honorees. They are beautiful awards, suitable for framing. Unfortunately, really unfortunately, we couldn't get any of the politicians to present these awards because they're also at home watching the Olympic closing ceremonies. As always, one of the highlights of our banquet is the announcement of the Keter Shem Tov awardee. You will hear about the Keter Shem Award in just a moment, but I must tell you that contest rules stipulate that one cannot be eligible for the Keter Shem Tov Award if you are an accountant with Arthur Anderson or a French ice skating judge. Please welcome the fantastic and hardworking president of the Young Israel of Century City, my dear friend and good-looking hair, Mr. Alan Teichman, who will announce the awardee.
And good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a good time so far. 15 years ago, at our Shul's board meeting, the board of directors unanimously voted that at our annual tribute dinner, a member would be selected to receive the Keter Shem Tov Award. The Keter Shem Tov Award is presented to a member who volunteers his or her time in a selfless manner on behalf and for the benefit of the Shul. The identity of the awardee remains secret until the presentation on the night of the annual dinner. The past recipients of the distinguished honor have been Martin Gottesman of blessed memory, 1988, Menachem Goldberg, 1989, you can clap if you want, Yaakov Glasser, 1990, Wendy Platt, 1991, Richard Seeger, 1992, Daniel Arnall, 1993, Marty Pollack, 1994, Rabbi Fred Fisher of blessed memory, 1995, Dorit Teichman, 1996, Marsha Wasserman, 1997, Sherry Schlesinger, 1998, Rebecca Jalali, 1999, Dr. George and Grace Fox, the year 2000, and Uri Hirsch, last year, 2001. Tonight, we proudly announce our 15th mystery recipient. See if you can guess along. Our Keter Shem Tov awardee was born to a prominent family in Jerusalem, blessed with a brilliant memory that seems to absorb more information than any human being could possibly need. Our awardee graduated Hillel Hebrew Academy and Rambam Torah Institute. But what makes our awardee's youth somewhat unusual was that even in high school, this person was a workaholic. Whether it be as an usher in a movie theater or delivering meat in a sibling's car, earning money was always important. An avid reader, our awardee devours 3 or 4 books a week, reading murder mysteries and psychological thrillers. When our awardee is flying around the planet, at least one book is consumed on each flight. This devoted communal leader loves fixing everything from broken toys to household appliances. Zionism runs deep in our awardee's blood. B'nai Akiva and Camp Moshava were a part of this person's childhood, with the year on Hakshara at Kibbutz Saad to round it all out. There, our honoree worked with chickens, and everywhere this person went, a little lamb would follow. This was the antidote for the 11th grade he spent at Telz Yeshiva in Cleveland, which our awardee will never forget. A devoted son, a great family man, our awardee met his beshert, with the help of God very evident for all to see. This shidduch was made by an uncle at the Kotel, and he dated his wife for 4 years before finally proposing on his knees at the Grand Hyatt Hotel on New Year's Eve. Happily married, he now plays with trains and teaches his son how to play ball. Recently, he even took up fishing, and since he hates putting on the bait himself, he lets his wife do that honor for him. never a man for public speaking, nor interested in the limelight. Our awardee lives a life full of mitzvot and chesed. The numerous hours he spends both day and night taking care of our shul's finances has earned him the respect and gratitude from all his friends and peers. Without further ado, please join me in saluting the longest-serving treasurer our shul has ever had, our very special Keter Shem Tov awardee for the year 5762, 2002, our very own treasurer, Irving Liftig. Mazel Tov, Irving. I'd like to read the award. Keter Shem Tov, Young Israel of Century City, Keter Shem Tov Award, presented to Irving Liftig in recognition and appreciation for his untiring efforts, commitment, and leadership. Elazar Muskin, Rabbi, February 24th, 2002. Alan Teichman, President. 12 Adar, 5762. Mazel Tov, Irving.
You have to give it to him, Alan.
Mazel Tov, Irving. Ladies and gentlemen, we give a Mazel Tov to Irving. All of you received a gift when you entered this evening. I don't know how many of you have this, but I don't even know if they have these in Borough Park. But the banquet committee, wondering what the heck do you get for shul members who have everything, has commissioned the official regulation size YICC Shabbos shoe bag. Now how's that? Personally, I don't know what this deal is anyway. Actually, humbly, I speak on behalf of all the males here in the audience. This is the story. We wake up Shabbos morning, we have a cup of coffee, we put on our suits, we walk to shul with shoes on our feet. When we get to shul, we wear the same shoes that we came with. When we leave shul, we walk home with the same shoes we came with. No change of shoes, no shoe bag. To us men, this gift is totally useless. Now for you women. God forbid you should walk to shul in the shoes you're going to wear. There are walking shoes, there are running shoes, and there are shul shoes. You're always schlepping. I saw a lady last week bring a pair of shoes for Shachris and a pair of shoes for Musaf. My wife just comes for Musaf. She doesn't want to bring two pairs of shoes. What did you women do before the Eruv? You never went to shul, exactly. I really feel for all you women. Gives new meaning to the bracha Shelo Asani Isha. Well, now you all have a beautiful Young Israel Shabbos shoe bag to bring your shoes to shul with. Say that 3 times real fast. Now, okay, now imagine this. Here goes. Check it out this coming Shabbos. You go into the coat room, 200 bags look exactly the same. You thought Kiddush was a mess. Okay. We would like to thank once again the most generous Brad and Mia Markoff for producing and donating these wonderful gifts. And as always, we thank Jeff Cohn for all the work that he did for the banquet, in designing this beautiful shoe bag, the tribute book, the invitations, and in general for everything that he does and what he donates to the shul, and he makes us look so good. Jeff Cohn, JDC Design, the best there is. Thank you, Jeff. We couldn't have a banquet honoring Sammy and Rivki without some special music. It is my pleasure to call upon their wonderful son, Ari, to present a few musical selections together with Avshalom the band.
I'm just gonna think it's Yom Kippur or something like that. I was only called up here to do a couple songs, but I figure if the rabbi can do a couple Ben Gavras, I can say a couple things too. And the first thing I want to say is to Mark Goldenberg. Yesterday when you got up there and you were talking about my parents and about Mr. Kleinman, so you mentioned how my mother's sending out all these political action committee things and how Mr. Kleinman is just happy to get out. And I think you got it all wrong, because a couple weeks ago when I was here for a wedding, it was a Saturday night, and my parents were telling me they're going out, and I was really surprised. And they were taking the party to Pizza World. Well, later I went out, and I saw Mr. Kleinman at the Havana Cigar Bar with Rabbi Weil and Tommy Lee. So I think you got it a little bit off. Can you take the melody? I just want to say one other quick thing before we close the show, and that is my mother called me a few months ago when I guess she was chosen as the honoree, and my mother and my father were chosen to be honored. And my mother called me and told me, and I was kind of shocked. I said, why? And the truth is, the reason I said why is because I would say 98% of the wonderful things that my parents do are things that nobody knows about and are very private things. And most of the things that they do for the community are things that very few people know about. And I think that, in general, the real tribute and the real honor of all of these kinds of banquets and all of these things are those things that people don't know, and things that are given to others, and things that are done for the community that nobody knows about. And the truth is that everybody deserves an honor for that, all of us. And the song that I'm about to sing now, in particular, takes on a little bit of extra meaning for certainly my father and I, who are going to sing it together, but for all of our family, and it represents...
Could I ask the people in the back to quiet down, please? Thank you. We would really appreciate your attention. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pops. This particular song has, in the past few days, taken on a little bit of new meaning for us, in the sense of things that nobody knows about, and doing something for somebody and for people that nobody will know about, that will probably mean more to those people than any of the things that everybody gets to know about. I'm proud of you, Mom and Pops.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ari Mark. Put your hands together for Ari. Rivki. How was that for Nachas, Rivki? Oh, look at this. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would kindly turn your attention to our video screen for a special video presentation.
I'm born in Solocino, a small town. You live around 15 Jewish families. In that time it was Czechoslovakia. And my father was a shoemaker and make a small living. When I grew up, I was around 14 years old. I left and I come off Munkac. In 1936, There was lived a cousin mine in Munkach, and I went to him and I sleep over. And the next day we went to a tailor, and he introduced me, and I learned my trade like a tailor from 1936. I was there till 1941. I was in the working camp for 2 years. And between that, I met Mr. Itzkovich in Munkach when I was there. And I met lots of people from Munkach over there. And then I left. And later I went in 2 years. I was in a working camp all over. They took us from one place to another one. After the war, I was liberated right near my town. And so I went home, and the first thing I come, the shul was closed. When I come home, the Russian was there, and the Russian soldiers opened the shul. I took out 2 Sefer Torahs, and I put it away by a Christian there, and I took out for me books, Siddur, and there was a neighbor machine. I took that sewing machine that I can work. So I work over there a little bit, and I took there was a house there, a Jewish house, but nobody was there, and there I settled myself. I put in a machine. I started to work, and later my brother survived because we was a family from 7 people. So just me and my brother survived. So when my brother came, so we left the small town and we went to Munkach. So we left Czechoslovakia and we went in 1946 become of Germany. In Germany, and there was a big camp, and we went over there, and the UNRWA, the American, was under their control. I met my wife after the war when I come with my brother of Munkach. I have a cousin, and my cousin, she knew her well, and she introduced me in Munkach. I saw her, she was a nice lady, and that was the most thing. She baked for a kokosh, she baked a cake, and she brought us to eat, and that was the best that I like, and like this I got in love with her. Baked a cake. And we got married over there in camp. And in the camp we stayed, then my daughter is born there. We emigrated of Canada in 1948. When we come of Canada, so I find a job. I was working over there, and then later we make a factory, me and my brother, and we used to make suits. So, and that was, we was there, there I had another 2 children, a daughter in New York, and our son, he lives in Toronto. So after that, we decided that I got a little bit older, and I decided I come of Los Angeles. I come of Los Angeles, I have here a daughter, so that was the time when we come here. And I went here when Yankees Ali started. I used to go sometime. They have a store in Beverly. I used to go over there a couple times. And then they took the building here in Yankees Israel. So one Shabbos I come here, and one Shabbos I went to Beit Jacob. After in Beit Jacob, I Rosh Hashanah in Yom Kippur, I took there in the hall, and I was enjoying. Sammy Mark was davening there, and his father was helping him, and I enjoyed very much there his davening. And later on, I met Larry Platt a couple times, and he said, when you coming already back? I said, don't worry, I'm coming back in Young Israel. And every one time I come, one time not. That later I decided, okay, I went to Young Israel, and from that time, I was always there. So in the meantime, they was looking for a rabbi, and they brought down Rabbi Moskin, and he make a speech, and after the speech, Larry Platt comes to me and he asks me, what you say? I say, take him, don't look for somebody else, take Rabbi Moskin, he's perfect for me. So, and like this, I was in Young Israel, always enjoying, and the people enjoying everything over there. I thank you for the rabbi, from everybody from the shul, all the people that they coming to the banquet.
A big, big mazel tov to you, Daddy. We're so proud of you, and I'm so honored to be your daughter, and we love you.
Mazel tov, Zaidi. All the best to you. You've been wonderful to me for the last 33 years, and I love you very much, and all the best to you, and be healthy for the rest of your life.
Mazel tov, Zaidi. You've been such a special presence in all of our lives, and it's so nice to know that you've been that to everyone in Shul as well. We love you very much, and we're so happy for you.
Mazel tov, we're very, very proud of you.
Mazel tov, Zaidi. I love you so much. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Zaidi. I'm so happy for you. I've loved spending all these years with you in Shul, right next to you. And I've loved growing up with you, spending all the time with you, Babi and Zaidi. And I love your cooking, Babi.
Babi and Zaidi, I'm so proud to be your new granddaughter.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Zaidi. I know I'm so lucky to have grown up with you and be so close with you emotionally. I am continually learning from you. I'm in awe of you, and I'm so happy to be here with you while you receive this well-deserved honor.
Dear Herman, I'm very, very proud of you, and mazel tov to you. And we spent 56 years together, and I hope we're going to spend many, many more and have a lot of nachas from our children, grandchildren. I love you.
Mazel tov, we love you.
Well, truth be told, when it came to hiring the rabbi, the board was deadlocked. It was 4-4 on to hire him or not until Mr. Kleinman voted for him. Please, we welcome Rabbi Muskin to give the award to Mr. Kleinman.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Mark. I thought I had a good name, a lousy bank account, but a good name, till I heard Mark. Recently, while having a discussion with one of my colleagues about translations and the pitfall of using a translation when you're teaching Tanakh, when you're teaching Bible, because every translation is an interpretation. He told me he heard the following story. He told me he heard the following story from Rabbi Dr. Norman Lamb. Rabbi Lamb saw this literally happen. Those of you who've spent a summer in New York know that in Central Park, the city during the summer turns that park into a place where they offer free entertainment. And one summer they had a whole Shakespearean celebration, one play after another. The first play they showed was King Lear. During the intermission after the first half of the play, as the actors were preparing for the second half right behind the stage, an elderly woman walked behind and started walking towards the exit. One of the actors stopped the woman and said, "Excuse me, is there anything wrong?" She says, "Oh, no, nothing wrong." So, "Are you leaving?" "Oh, yes." He says, "Why are you leaving? Don't you want to see the other half of the play?" don't you like Shakespeare? She says, I love Shakespeare. And then with a deep European accent, she says, but when I was a child in Warsaw and I saw Shakespeare in the original Polish, it had much more Tom than in the translation in English. Tonight, Mr. Kleinman, I don't want to use any translations. I want to talk Mama Lusha. And I want to tell it with the total Tom, the flavor that you deserve. I'd like to share the tribute with a little thought. Yesterday in Shul, we celebrated a very special Shabbat, Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat that always precedes Purim. We have to remember on that Shabbat what Hitler tried to do to our people, what every Hitler has tried to do to our people to this very day. The 19th century Shem Mishmuel, the great Hasidic master, asked a brilliant question. He says, why do we put this Shabbat, this special reading of Zechar Amalek, of remembering what our archenemy did to us, why do we place it on the Shabbat right before Purim? It's connected with Purim. Let's read it on Purim morning. Right before we read the Megillah, we have a Torah reading. Let's read that reading. And the Shem Mishmuel answers a brilliant insight. The Shem Mishmuel says, the Jew has a different attitude during the week than he has on Shabbat. Purim always falls during the week. It's categorized as a weekday holiday. It's not even as important as a Rosh Chodesh, as a new moon. And when a Jew would experience Zechiras Amalek, remembering what Hitler did to us during the week, he says, he'd become depressed. He'd say, look, the enmity, the hatred. Look at what they've tried to do and look what they've succeeded in doing to our people. He'd become depressed. But Shem Yishmuel says, but when you have it on Shabbos, the Jew has a whole different experience. The Jew on Shabbos feels, there were the Romans, and they're gone. The Egyptians, they're gone. The Philistines, they're gone. The Nazis, they're gone. Arafat, he'll be gone too. A Jew on Shabbos feels he can conquer it all. You see, the Jew on Shabbos is a different human being. Mr. Kleinman is a Shabbos Jew. He's not a weekday Jew. Now, don't get me wrong. Mr. Kleinman is a Shomrei Torah Mitzvos. He's the Gabbai at the second minyan daily. Without Mr. Kleinman, we don't have a well-run minyan at 7:45 in the morning. He keeps mitzvahs, but he's still a Shabbos Jew. I say that because that's the only way I can understand how a Jew who went through that hell, through those labor camps, and only one other brother survived, would raise a family of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who are observing mitzvahs. I've watched, you see, Mr. Kleinman sits right in front of me at 7:45, Stender's right across me. When he chose where to sit in the main shul on Shabbos, it's right across from him. Mr. Kleinman, I watch how you daven. You have a way of connecting with the Almighty that I admire. He listens. He listens when you talk. Mr. Kleinman, there's something very special about you. I went into your stender on Friday night. You didn't know this. In the main shul, I was out of lollipops. For those who don't know, I'm the candy man, or one of the candy men. I was the first candy man at Young Israel of Century City. Now I have competition. One of my competitors is Mr. Kleinman. He has candy. You know why he has candy? Because he's a Shabbos Jew. Because the kids, he wants them to. Now I have competition. One of my competitors is Mr. Kleinman. He has candy. You know why he has candy? Because he's a Shabbos Jew. Because the kids, he wants them to enjoy shul. Rav Soloveitchik in his masterpiece work, Al HaTshuva, said, I know that there are Shomrei Shabbat, people who observe Shabbat in America. I've yet to find a Jew who observes Friday. What's a Friday Jew? And the Rav Soloveitchik said, a Friday Jew is a person who's excited that Shabbos is coming. Mr. Kleinman is excited that Shabbos is coming. Mr. Kleinman is a Shabbos Jew and he's a Friday Jew. And that's how he has a nakama. He's taken his revenge against Hitler. I want to conclude by telling everybody a story that only Mrs. Kleinman knows. When preparing the journal that you have on your tables, so there's a biography of Mr. Kleinman. So I called up a few months ago and I said, Mr. Kleinman, tell me a little about yourself. And he told me what you heard on the video. And then I said to Mr. Kleinman, how many years have you been a member at Young Israel of Century City? He said, I joined after the first year I arrived. I said, but Mr. Kleinman, when you joined, weren't they much younger than you, most of the Balabatim? And Mrs. Kleinman was on the other phone, listening in, and she interrupted, and she said, Rabbi, there is nothing that gives my husband more pleasure than davening with younger Jews. There's nothing that gives my husband and I more pleasure than seeing Young Israel of Century City grow and grow and grow. That's a Friday Jew, that's a Shabbos Jew. Mr. Kleinman, the Mama Lasha. It's with all the time. This is your nekama. This is your revenge. Hitler didn't succeed. Hitler took too many of us, but he didn't succeed because we have Jews like you who've imbued their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren with the love of our faith, the love of our Shabbos, and most important, the excitement of Torah and mitzvahs. I want to wish you and your wife Arichas Yomim. Mr. Kleinman just celebrated his 81st birthday. It's my pleasure at this time to call upon our chairman of the board, Donald Etra, to make the presentation of the gift to Mr. Kleinman. Mr. Kleinman, would you please come forward?
In deciding the appropriate gift to give Mr. Kleinman upon receiving our shul's 5,762 Lifetime Achievement Award, we felt that it must depict his unique life story and his loyalty to Torah and mitzvot. We have therefore chosen a Kos Shel Eliyahu, a cup of Elijah used at the Pesach Seder, to be our gift of appreciation. According to tradition, Eliyahu Hanavi will herald in the Messianic age, declaring our victory over all our enemies. Tonight, as Mr. Kleinman celebrates his life victory as an observant Jew against all odds, this Kos Shel Eliyahu serves as our tribute to a remarkable life and a remarkable man. The inscription on the gift reads, Young Israel of Century City, Lifetime Achievement Award presented to Herman Kleinman, February 24, 2002, 12 days in Adar, 5,762, Elazar Muskin, Rabbi, and Alan Teichman, President. It is our honor to give you this award. Thank you.
Will you hold it for the picture? Turn it around.
Sheshurav. I am honored and happy to be here. Thank you so much for the privilege. That has been my pleasure to daven in Young Israel of Century City for the past 20 years since I moved to Los Angeles. I am grateful to have my children, Ruth and Neil, grandchildren and great-grandchildren daven with me in the shul. So, like as Dr. Mark said, this shul is tailor-made for me, and I am very touched and humbled by this honor. I would like to thank all my family, friends, and the entire community for being here so celebrate with me. Thank you for my grandson, Hanani from Toronto, and Daniel, his wife, and children who come from far from Israel, Eretz Yisrael. I especially want to thank my dear wife, Irene, of 56 years, to whom I owe all my happiness, success, and strength. She is truly the one that deserves this reward for being with me for so long. May Hashem give her many more happy and healthy years. I pray that Hashem bless the shul to continue growing. May He bless Eretz Yisrael with shalom and bring Mashiach. Thank you.
Mazel tov, Mr. Kleinman. Mazel tov. Bill Bradley. Senator Bill Bradley was running for president just a couple of years ago. He was in this actual ballroom in a fundraiser. They served the regular dinner. It was a green salad, a steak, and a potato with a pat of butter on it. So Bill Bradley says to the waiter, "Excuse me, can I have another pat of butter for my potato?" So the waiter says, "No, I'm sorry, you can't." He says, "What do you mean I can't have another pat of butter?" He says, "Listen, one potato, one pat of butter, that's the rule." He says, "Do you know who I am?" So the waiter says, "No, I don't know who you are." He says, "I'm Bill Bradley." He says, "So?" He says, "I am Bill Bradley. I'm a Rhodes Scholar. I used to play in the NBA. I'm a United States Senator, and I'm running for President of the United States." So the waiter says, "Do you know who I am?" So Bill Bradley says, "No." He says, "I'm in charge of the butter." Ladies and gentlemen, if you need anything, ask your waiters. Enjoy your dinner, b'tavon. Thank you. We'll see you in the second half. So there's a devoted son. The devoted son wants to surprise his mother, and he shopped around for a gift that would please her. He finally decided to give her a parrot that could speak in 7 languages, and he had the bird delivered to his mother. A few days later, the son calls his mother and says, "How do you like the bird?" She says, "Oh, it was delicious." What, he said? "You ate the parrot that speaks 7 languages?" No, so why didn't you say something? I hope your dinner didn't talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Every week, we pick up the latest shul news in our announcement sheet this week at YICC. And now we even get it sent to us online, courtesy of Rebecca. It's a must-read for everyone who wants to be in the know. And for those of us who can't read, our President Alan Teichman reads it to you word for word before the rabbi's speech. But, truth be told, it's become a little dull lately. So we thought we'd like to present to you tonight announcements we'd really like to see. Please give your attention to the video screen in the corner. So this week at YICC, announcements we'd really like to see. Now, of course, in our announcements, we really have to know the times for Minyan. Hashkama Minyan, 7:15 a.m., Shachris, 9 o'clock a.m., Kiddush Rishon ASAP. And then we have to know when Shabbos is over so that we can get to the movies on time. Shabbos ends 6:02, Maravet Yicc ends 6:42, Maravet Larry Platt's house 5:31. Unfortunately, every Shabbos we always have to make a Misha Berach for the Cholim. Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our congregation. And then there's the famous halachic corner, where the rabbi prints important and fascinating halachos of the most esoteric nature. One should not talk during the last two Kaddishim. However, it is permissible to talk during all the others. They just got it all the way in the back, wasn't it? Is there a sound problem? And then, of course, our shul is known for its programming. We have won national awards for excellence. For example, Weight Watchers will meet at 7 p.m. in the shul. Please use the large double doors at the back entrance. A favorite in our shul is the Shabbos of Song. Now we're in the process of revamping it. Shabbos of clapping, yelping, and song led by Baruch Littman. A mildly successful program is the Rabbi's Brunch and More, a nice brunch followed by a shiur by the rabbi. To attract an even greater following, we've decided to slightly alter the program. Just brunch. The shul is famous for its chesed programs, and many of our members are in leadership positions. In fact, this week one of our members is being honored by Amit. The ladies of Amit have cast off clothing of every kind, and they may be seen in the basement on Tuesdays. Baruch Hashem, every week we have a number of mazel tovs and reasons for celebration. For you morning minyan regulars, check this one out. Mazel tov to gold medal winner Larry Platt for Olympic speed davening. Alan Dolphin, coach. All of us who go to Daily Minyan, the 10 of us, all of us who go to Daily Minyan get bombarded with Mishulachim day in and day out. So we thought this new feature would be most helpful. Here's the Mishulach of the week. You know, you get to know a little bit more about the guy who comes. We even provide the vital statistics. That average is the average volume of gelt, AVG, it's $2.60. The RSD is the record of shuls per day. This one hit 22 shuls in one day. And the RBI is the really believable income, which is tax-free, $280,000 a year. Why ICC strive? Well, you know what? You can always hope. There will be no travel story in this week's drasha. Our Young Israel strives to present programs that help our membership cope with the challenges of everyday life. Take, for example, what we learned in our stress management class. Don't let worry kill you, let Young Israel help. We work hard to provide services to all segments of our shul population, especially our younger members. Thursday at 9, there will be a meeting of the new Mothers Club. Those women wishing to become new mothers, please see the rabbi in his private study. Gee whiz. This is a rough crowd. Okay. You don't have to discuss it. It's just a joke, okay? Don't discuss it. It's a joke. Believe it or not, people call the shul office on Fridays asking what is being served at the Kiddush. Honest to goodness truth. The Kiddush Club here, is that true? It's the truth. Ask Rebecca. Apparently, people want to know if they have to prepare lunch at home or not. So we thought this would be really helpful in the shul announcements. Here's the YICC Kiddush menu. And this week we have cake and cookies, cholent, cold cuts, chicken sticks, egg salad, chopped liver, and assorted kugels. This way you know exactly what you're having, and the people would be very, very happy. And then for those of you who prefer to take it to go, here's our takeout menu. And finally, the bottom line is the bottom line. What would our shul be without all the appeals? The rabbi unveiled the shul's new fundraising campaign slogan this week, I up my pledge, up yours. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Ben Jacobowitz, who worked with me on this. He couldn't be here, he's watching the Olympics too. Planning a beautiful banquet like this evening takes a lot of work and effort. I, of course, thank the banquet committee for all of their efforts. But ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't do what we do without the help of our shul's administrator, Ms. Rebecca Jalali. We publicly thank you for all that you do, Rebecca. You're the best. I would bet that virtually all of you here tonight know Sammy and Rivki Mark very well. But when there is a group that is so large and so diverse, it occurred to us that there might be one or two of you that don't really know them. For the benefit of those one or two, please direct your attention to the video screen to gain an insight into our honorees.
The video's fine. It's clean. Now please, leave me alone already. I asked you once. Leave me alone.
We joined the shul in 1986, I believe. And we joined the shul because we had heard that it was environmentally safe and asbestos free.
Oh, if I'm supposed to respond too, okay. I do whatever my wife tells me.
The first person that did come over to us and befriend us was Freddie Fisher. He was very, very special and very warm, and our relationship really flourished from that time on.
You have some really great people that come over to you every Shabbos and say good Shabbos, like Mark Goldenberg, like Freddie Fisher, who invited us over to the house first and made us feel terrific. And eventually you'll become the honorees. That's why I joined the shul.
One of the main reasons that I joined the shul was because of the Ben Gavras. I never knew what a Ben Gavra was before, but I sure do now.
The people that we have that go to the shul that give a lot of themselves to the shul, particularly the Kiddush Club people who make it such a friendly place, make it a very special shul. I like all of you.
Oh, that's so sweet. What makes our shul unique is the people. The Kiddush Club certainly, as Sammy said, but I would say the rabbi, the people, the president definitely makes the shul unique, and and the First Lady and the Rebbitzin and Rebecca and all of the wonderful, wonderful people. I've seen it grow and mature in my gray hair, my children getting married, my grandchild. I've seen a lot of growing and maturing.
The shul has definitely grown. We went from, I think, 400 seats or 350 seats to about 420 during the expansion, and we can't fit anybody in anymore, so we're growing. I think that one of the greatest experiences at Young Israel is the davening on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I think it's a really spiritual experience. Mark's davening is wonderful. Everyone's singing from the time that the shofar is blown until the last tekiyot. You can hear a pin drop. It's just absolutely wonderful. And I think that's a beautiful spiritual experience. I think the scholar and residence programs are absolutely phenomenal. There are many that I remember where we've gotten to meet personalities firsthand and speak to them besides them speaking to us, and I think that's great. And I love the comedy and singing night. I think that's wonderful too.
Well, the program that to me is the most memorable is when we first joined the shul. I think it was probably either the first or second year, and I believe it was a Purim carnival, and the most memorable thing was Mark Goldenberg in his pink tutu. That is something that is emblazoned in my memory for life.
I like him. I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's been there for me personally. Like many people, we all have our ups and downs. He's been there for the ups. He's been there for the downs. And actually, I didn't know it, but I think at the bar mitzvah, he said I'm like his brother, so I feel like a brother. And
well, let me put it this way. I think I would take off my shirt. I mean, Sammy would take off his shirt for the rabbi.
But with all that being said, I want to say that I really don't like the rabbi.
Ooh.
But I love the Rebbitzin. She's A-OK, and I've had my eye on her ever since they got here. Keep up the great work, Ruchama.
I really view the rabbi as a really as a personal friend. He is not only my rabbi, and I have the greatest respect for Rabbi Muskin as my rabbi, but I also have great affection for both the rabbi and Ruchama as personal friends.
First of all, I loved being president. I thought it was terrific. I had great fun. I can tell you that the only reason that I was president is because nobody else wanted the job at the time. There were a couple of rough spots, and they couldn't pay somebody to take the job.
Oh, I thought they paid you.
Right. I was able to get 10% of the banquet proceeds that year. Rebecca came to the shul during that time, and she made my life wonderful, and we had a lot of good laughs, and things were really fun. So, yay, Rebecca. If any of you are asked to be president, grab it. Davening with my son really started at Young Israel, and that's terrific. And in terms of a family memory, in terms of the greater family, I think that the beauty of Young Israel is that we are one large, maybe not always a happy family, but we're one large family, and there are many memories in that regard. I mean, just one example, of course, is I remember when Fred Schlesinger was hit, unfortunately, was in the hospital, and that night, I think it was a Motzei Shabbos, we went to the hospital, and the whole family, meaning there must have been 40 or 50 or more people from the shul just sitting there. So I think that sense of family is always important, and we have it.
One of the most special things is davening on the Yomim Noraim, listening to Ari and Sammy daven. That is extremely special and meaningful to me. The other thing is, celebrating Ari's bar mitzvah in the shul, which was special. And when Chaviva got married, Ilan's Ofruf. And of course, the last very special, memorable event we had was Ari's Ofruf, when Ari and Miriam got married. That was a year ago, and that was very special to me as well. And God willing, we look forward to having a memorable event with Racheli.
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
My bracha to the shul would be the bracha that I would wish all of us, and that would be peace in Israel.
Iman Abba. Here we sat with lots to say, but Alan warned not to take all day. Where to start with time so short, our feelings and thoughts we had to sort. So in 30 seconds or less, our pride will share. It is hard to express how much we care.
So important an occasion we travel from far to show to all how special you are. An honor so great they bestow upon you for all you've done for the shul and us too.
Since we joined this shul, our second home, your involvement and caring, you have shown. For us, the memories that we hold so dear, while we are far, the shul feels near.
Rabbi Meskin and Ruchama, so close from the start, all of you members, a special place in our heart. Memories of Rosh Hashanah are special, you know, when Mr. and Abba perform their great show.
Ima and Abba, what else can we say? You've set an example and shown us the way. All you have done, quite a precedent you've set. A pair like you we have never met. So here's to you, the two we love. Raise your glasses, Mazel Tov.
Bye-bye? Yeah, bye-bye.
We'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight because you're all very important to us. Thank you. And when they come to your door to ask you to be the honoree, just grab it. Aside from making the calls, it's great fun. Thanks.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming here tonight to honor us and for supporting the shul, and it's really, it was a great honor for us and hopefully a whole lot of fun for everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Our shul is indeed fortunate to have the spiritual leadership that we have in the person of our Rav. He has imbued each and every one of us with a sense of spirituality which transfers into each and every facet of our daily lives. It is not just what we hear and learn on Shabbos, but we carry the spirit and ethics of our Yiddishkeit with us every day, day in and day out, regardless of our professions, regardless of who we are or where we go. Our Rav has taught us to be involved in our community at large. We must not only look out for what is good for us, but to look out for what is best for the community that we are a part of. We must care about others and their feelings, and not just our own. He has taught us not just to make Shabbos for ourselves, so to speak, but to make a positive impact on others outside of our community, to Jews on the right, to Jews on the left, and to non-Jews as well. His tremendous involvement in the community, his caring for the poor, the sick, the widows, and the orphans are all shining examples of the path in which each and every one of us must follow. His love and concern for Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, and Medinat Yisrael is evident to all who know him. A number of us just returned from a trip to Eretz Yisrael that he led. And I will tell you that I was at an event at a bar mitzvah of a former member of ours, an Israeli family in Tel Aviv. And as a rule, rabbis are not invited to parties in Israel. Rabbis are there for two purposes, to marry you and to bury you. So they were amazed that a rabbi from America would be at this party. And after he spoke so beautifully as he does, the Israelis came up to us at the table and said, we want to steal him away from you. We'd love to have a rabbi like this. And we were just so proud. His leadership in the shul, in every aspect of our congregation, whether administration, public relations, programming, and fundraising, has made our shul the one that is the envy of congregations locally and nationwide. His dedication to his rabbanit and family, despite the numerous commitments he has, is a pleasure to behold. And most of all, he is a friend. He is a friend to each and every one of us. He cares about each and every one of us. And he always does it with a smile. And sometimes he even tries to crack a joke. Our community is truly blessed. To present this year's Tribute Award, it is my pleasure and honor to present our Mora d'Asra, Rabbi Elazar Muskin.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in giving a very special hand to Dr. Mark Goldenberg, who put so much time and so much love into our shul and to everything he does. And our shul is blessed to have him. And you know, I don't censor anything he does. Nor do I see it beforehand either. As Dr. Mark called me to the podium for the second time this evening, I'm reminded of a story I just read this past Monday in the New York Times. The New York Times runs a column called Metropolitan Diary. This column is printed in the paper Mondays, and it depicts different stories that occur that make New York such a special place in this world. Here's what one of the entries read. Dear Diary, my friend, John Duckworth, his daughter Samantha, and his 93-year-old mother, Muriel, live in Nova Scotia. They plan to attend a performance of The Marriage of Figaro at the Metropolitan Opera later this month. Muriel Duckworth's only previous visit to the Met was back in 1932, when she lived in New York for only 1 year, and someone gave her tickets as a gift for her and her husband. Since then, she has listened to the Met every Saturday afternoon on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, but has never been back. When her son called the ticket office at the Met to buy the tickets for this visit this coming month and told the story that you just heard to a staff member at the Met last month, the staff person replied, "That's what we like, repeat customers." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a repeat customer. I have the opportunity this evening to share some very personal thoughts to a very special couple. A couple that, yes, I do call very proudly friends. Allow me, if you will, to say a few words of tribute to Sammy and Rivki by sharing with you a question that was asked by one of the great Torah scholars of the early 20th century, Rabbi Yeshua Leib Diskin, known as the Brisker Rav of Yerushalayim. In 1 month from now, it's hard to believe, tomorrow's Tanis Esther. Purim is 2 days away. That means in a month from now, we'll be celebrating Pesach. Throughout the holiday, as with Shavuos and Sukkot as well, we say the Musaf service. And in the Musaf service, we make a declaration. V'ha'arenu b'vinyano, v'samchenu b'sikuno. Show us its rebuilding and gladden us in its perfection. Rabbi Diskin asked, I understand, v'ha'arenu b'vinyano. Show us the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, of the Holy Temple. The sages tell us that the temple was destroyed by fire and it will be rebuilt by fire. And out of heaven, the third temple The Beis Hamikdash L'Osid Lava, that will be a permanent building, will descend from heaven in a bolt of fire, and it will be all there built. V'harenu b'vinyano. Show us, we ask the Almighty, the building. But Rabbi Diskin couldn't understand. V'samchenu b'sikuno. V'samchenu b'sikuno means gladden us in its perfection. Ladies and gentlemen, if God builds the Beis Hamikdash, then it is perfect. V'samchenu b'sikuno, it makes no sense. How could it be? It has to be perfect. One rabbi suggested that maybe what's going to happen is that there's going to be on the mizbeach, on the altar, a little chip. It won't be perfect. You and I will perfect it. But I don't think so. That's not satisfactory. Oh no. Really, I want to suggest the following. V'harenu b'vinyano. God can build the Beis Hamikdash, oh yes. God can do whatever he wants. But we are the only ones that can endow it with Kedusha, with sanctity. Only the Jewish people. If we don't enter that building, light the menorah, makriv the ketores, if we don't bring the avodah, the divine service, it remains a building. The only time it becomes the holy Beis Hamikdash, v'samchenu b'sikuno, is if we transform the building into a holy building. That's our partnership with the Almighty. He'll build, we'll bring the sanctity. It's a profound idea. We, the Jewish people, can do that. But not always do people do that. Only a select few. They endow buildings with Kedusha. They transform mortar and brick into holiness. Sammy and Rivki are two people who know how to endow buildings with holiness. It takes commitment with Kedusha, with sanctity. Only the Jewish people. If we don't enter that building, light the menorah, makriv the ketores, if we don't bring the avodah, the divine service, it remains a building. The only time it becomes the holy Beis Hamikdash, v'samchenu b'sikuno, is if we transform the building into a holy building. That's our partnership with the Almighty. He'll build, we'll bring the sanctity. It's a profound idea. We, the Jewish people, can do that. But not always do people do that. Only a select few. They endow buildings with Kedusha. They transform mortar and brick into holiness. Sammy and Rivki are two people who know how to endow buildings with holiness. It takes commitment. It requires a vision. We can kibitz tonight. We can have a good time. But we have to be honest. What was Sammy's secret as president? Sammy became president in 1990. He was president for 2 years. I was rabbi in this community for only 4 years when he became the president. Our shul began to experience growth. We were less than 50 families when I first arrived here. It was a small shtibel, if you will. And now suddenly it was growing. It was becoming a main shul. With growth, there was pain. How does one become president of a shul that's suddenly becoming a major influence in the community? How do you keep the old-timers happy? The ones who had a vision. By the way, Shabbos Zachar, Harvey Tannenbaum told me this Shabbos. We just celebrated our 26th anniversary this Shabbos. The shul was founded 26 years ago on Shabbos Zachar. How do you keep the fellas who started the shul happy and yet bring in new blood? That's always a challenge. It was a difficult one. I want to tell you his secret. His secret was he listened. He allowed people to share with him their visions. He listened and listened and listened, and I marveled at how he listened. He would absorb it all. Oh, he didn't always agree, but he allowed everybody their time everybody there right. He created an atmosphere of shalom ben ish lechavero that I think is the mark of the shul. Once I asked Sammy, you know where Sammy sits in shul? Sammy sits in the back row. He's been doing that for a long time, right near the door. So I once asked him, Sammy, what are you sitting in the back for? And he answered me, I'm not sitting in the back. I'm sitting right near the door to watch who comes in. If they need help, I'll be there. You know, sometimes strangers come in. They don't know where a sitter is. They don't know where the talis is. They don't know where the chumash is. Sammy's right there by the door. And I do remember, more than one occasion, but I remember one occasion in particular. A gentleman and his wife came from Eretz Yisrael. We have a lot of hotels near the shul. A young Israel, just a block or two away from hotels. We get visitors all the time. A couple came in, and he sat right next. The gentleman sat right next to Sammy. And before you knew it, at Kiddush, the couple was introduced to Rivki. And before you knew it, they were their guests at the Shabbos table. Rivki has transformed a home into a mikdash ma'at. Hospitality, oh no, it's not just for her friends. It's for people who need. I must tell you that Rivki has never said no to Ruchama when Ruchama calls up and asks, Rivki, there's a Beis Hava, Rachmana litzlan. There's a person sick, Rachmana litzlan. We need to make meals. Will you do it? And Rivki always does. It's changing a home into a mikdash. Ladies and gentlemen, they've done it with their children. I've watched with respect, and I admire it. Rivki once told me many, many years ago, and I still remember it to this very day. She says, when my kids were growing up, they knew that Shabbos was a very special day. Shabbos requires that kids dress differently than during the week, just like we do as adults. My kids knew that they could invite anyone to our home at any time on Shabbos, but the kids had to come in Big Day Shabbos. They couldn't come as if it was a weekday. They knew how to transform a Shabbos into a very special day. Perhaps, however, this all emanates from where they come from. Rivki and Sammy were raised in very special homes. Mr. and Mrs. Eisenberg and Mr. and Mrs. Mark. Both families, survivors from the Holocaust. Both families have always been committed to Torah and mitzvahs. The Holocaust wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It was the beginning to transform their lives into a mikdash ma'at. And they taught their children, they taught their grandchildren that you have to support Eretz Yisrael. You have to live for Medinat Yisrael. And they were outstanding teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, God can build the binyan, but we have to transform it into a holy mikdash. Please therefore join me in saluting Sammy and Rivki and the entire Mark and Eisenberg families. They've done a tremendous job. Yasher koach, mazel tov. It's my pleasure at this time to call as representatives of the banquet committee to the podium to join me in presenting the gift, the tribute gift to our honorees. I call Miriam Fisher and Esty and Craig Levine to make the presentation.
Good morning. On this special evening, as we publicly pay tribute to Sammy and Rivki for all of their efforts on behalf of our shul and community, we felt that our presentation should reflect our gratitude for everything that they have accomplished. In Jewish tradition, Seder night is the ultimate family occasion. It is at the Seder when generations unite and form bonds that transcend time. Tonight we are saluting a family that personifies this fact, and that serves as a model for all of us to emulate. We have therefore chosen as our gift the beautiful kera, a Seder plate. We hope this Seder plate will always remind them of the high esteem that they have earned in our shul, and it is our blessing that they continue to enhance our community with their creativity. May they be blessed to enjoy many wonderful smachot with their lovely family.
The inscription on the gift reads, Young Israel of Century City Tribute Award, presented to Sam and Rivki Mark, February 24th, 2002, 12th of Adar, 5762. Elzar R. Muskin, Rabbi, Alan Teifman, President.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you for our remarks a terrific lady, a multi-million-dollar sales awardee, an incredible mother to 3 children, a community activist, an incredible mother-in-law to 2-point-something children, my wife, my love of my life, Rivki Mark.
First of all, Dad, guess what? We don't have to call you. You know where we are. We're all here. Although this week has been very difficult for our family, Sammy's aunt passed away last week, and tonight, Sammy's Uncle Bensi passed away. We are here celebrating Torah and mitzvot, just like they would have wanted us to. Dear Rabbi Muskin, esteemed rabbis, Dr. Goldenberg, family, and friends. First and foremost, mazel tov to Mr. Kleinman on his well-deserved honor and happy birthday. May you be blessed with good health, happiness, and nachas from your wonderful family. When it was announced that Sammy and I were to be this year's honorees, our nearest and dearest asked us, how did you get roped into this? It was actually quite simple. The rabbi called that he needed to meet with us about something. We set up a date and time, and when the doorbell rang, there stood the 3 malachim, Mark Goldenberg, Alan Teishman, and the rabbi. This was obviously a very serious something. Either that, or we just won the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. We all sat down, and they made their pitch. To be honest, we didn't want to accept. But the rabbi applied good old Jewish guilt and a few comments like, you will make your parents proud. And if that wasn't enough, he added the final blow. Your children will be so proud of you. So I ask you, who can turn down that proposition? But before we accepted, we decided to call our children and see what they had to say. We first called our eldest, our Bechora, Chaviva, and told her that the shul would like to honor us at this year's banquet. Her response was, that's nice, but what do you do for the shul? Okay, on to the next. We then called our youngest, Ari, our Torah scholar, and told him the same thing. His reply was, that's nice, but why? A little more diplomatic, but definitely no cigar. We then called our middle child, Racheli. Her response was, that's so nice. I am so very proud of you. Bingo! Seriously, this is a special evening for us, and we are honored that the shul chose us to be this year's recipients of the Tribute Award. The values and commitments that our family holds dear are synonymous with those of our shul, but our values did not spring forth from a vacuum. Both Sammy and I were fortunate to be brought up in homes that recognized and understood the values of Torah. Tomorrow night, we will celebrate the holiday of Purim. We are all familiar with the details of the Purim story. But when one thinks about the essence of the story, one realizes that it is a story about our struggle for Jewish existence. Our sages tell us that when the children of Israel accepted the Torah at Mount Sinai, it was actually forced upon them. Kafa alehem har kigigit. Hashem held the mountain over them. But during the time of Purim, our sages tell us, Kimu ma shekvar kiblu. They reaffirmed their commitment to the Torah and strengthened it. During the Purim story, they willingly and lovingly took upon themselves the responsibility of Torah and mitzvot. Their commitment was strengthened, even under the threat of physical annihilation. Although there are some that think the story I just recounted may be fiction, I know for a fact that it is true. The reason is because the same story happened to our parents. You see, my parents, Zelig and Lola Eisenberg, as well as my in-laws, Ben and Perla Mark, whom we are blessed to have sitting here tonight, are survivors of the Holocaust. My father is a survivor of Buchenwald, and my mother a survivor of Auschwitz. They endured the worst terrors and nightmares humanly possible. It was a test of faith that no one should ever have to go through. My parents were not superhuman. They were just two ordinary people with extraordinary faith. Even in the camps, my father davened every day. My parents married in a DP camp in Germany and immigrated to the United States. In those days, being Orthodox and being observant was very difficult. But their commitment to every aspect of Yiddishkeit was without question. It was their priority. I was not fortunate to grow up in Los Angeles, where Orthodox life was beginning to flourish. Rather, I grew up in places that were not hospitable to such a lifestyle. And yet, I remember as a little girl walking to shul with my father Friday night. I remember my mother wrapping up 2 kosher hot dogs in foil for my Brownie Scout barbecue. I remember walking home from school one day and seeing a man in a black suit, black hat, and a beard with a suitcase in his hand. A very strange sight in San Francisco. I ran home and told my mother, "Ma, we're having company." She wasn't expecting anybody. I said, "Just wait a minute," and sure enough, the doorbell rang. Every rabbi, every mashulach who came to San Francisco had my parents' address and knew they would have a warm welcome. I remember going to Israel with my father for the first time and watching him bend down, kiss the ground, and recite the Shechianu. My parents made many sacrifices. My parents knew that when my sister and I reached high school age, we would need more serious Jewish education. I was 15 when I was sent away to yeshiva, and my sister was sent to yeshiva at the age of 14. They made these emotional and financial sacrifices because they never wavered in their belief of our Torah. Sammy also came from a home where Torah and Israel were priorities. My in-laws also survived the Holocaust. My father-in-law came to Israel via the Jewish Agency and sailed on a ship called the Chayal Ivri. There were 460 people packed into this small boat. They were so cramped for space that no one was able to stand up straight the entire trip. When he arrived in Israel, the British confined him to their illegal immigration center, Atlit, where he stayed for 3 months. In the 1948 War of Independence, he served as a soldier in the Golani Brigade in the Machlaka Datit, the religious unit. After the war, my mother-in-law also made the decision to go to Israel. She was recruited and brought to Israel by the Haganah. In Israel, someone who she did not know saw my mother-in-law and immediately said, "I have a shidduch for you." My mother-in-law responded, "Be religious." This lady said, "Of course he is religious. He even wears tzitzit," and ran into his room and brought out his tzitzit. My mother-in-law knew that this would be a man that her father would approve of, and she agreed to meet him. Well, that man is my father-in-law. Sammy was born in Israel, and in 1955, my in-laws came to Los Angeles to unite with the rest of their family who survived Hitler. Through their commitment and dedication to Torah, they became founders of Beth Jacob Congregation and Hillel Hebrew Academy. So now, I think I can answer the question that 2 of our children asked when they heard we were going to be honored tonight. They asked, why? Why would the shul want to honor us? The truth is that the real honorees tonight aren't Sammy and me, rather our parents. They are truly honorable people in every sense of the word. May I conclude my remarks with thanking the people that made this night such a great success. First, the chair people. Thank you, Miriam, Mark, Debbie, Alan and Elisa, Alan and Dorit, Craig and Esty, and Neil and Ruth. A very, very special thanks to Dr. Mark for serving as our outstanding MC and for everything he does and continues to do. Thank you, Mark. To our president, Alan Teichman, our dear friend and neighbor, we thank you for your devotion to our shul and for helping with every aspect of this dinner. Thank you to Rebecca. You are so amazing. We wouldn't be here tonight without your hard work. Sammy and I would especially like to thank the rabbi. You are not only our spiritual mentor, but a true friend as well. I would also like to thank my wonderful children, Chaviva, Ilan, Racheli, Ari, and Miriam. We couldn't be prouder of you. You are truly the crowning jewels of our family, not only for Abba and me, but also for Bubby Lola, Zaidi Zalik, Bubby Perla, and Zaidi Bensi. And of course, our granddaughter, Kayla. She is the light of my life. She really is. She's terrific. To quote her father, you are beyond. I would also like to thank my sister and brother-in-law, Judy and Joe Pollock, for coming from New York in our honor. And of course, I would like to thank my husband, Sammy, for not only being a great president of the shul, a wonderful chazan, and a terrific father and zaypa. You can ask him about that later. But for being my sun, the moon, and the stars. And last but not least, a thank you to all of our dear friends and family. You made this one of the most meaningful and memorable moments of our lives. Your support and friendship has been immeasurable. This is truly one of the things that makes our shul so special. Acharon, Acharon Chaviv. Thank you to the Ribbon Shalom for all of our blessings. We are truly blessed to have been able to share and participate in such a beautiful celebration together with our dear parents, children, grandchild, and friends. May Hashem bless us with true and everlasting peace in Eretz Yisrael, B'mheira B'yameinu. Thank you.
Beautiful, Rivki. Beautiful. Well, this concludes our program. We are about to have dessert, so please join us for dessert.
Everybody will die sharp. Rabbi Samuel Benson. Yishai Madonam Bayrach, Beato Beato Elom, Bershish, Meunon, Barabunon, Baraboisai, Nebuach Eloheini, Shechalne Misheloi. Baruch Eloheini, Shechalne Misheloi, Tiber Yechuini, Baruch Ato Adonai, Eloheinu Melech Olam, Hazon Esuolam Kiloi Betivoi, Bechain Bechesed Brachamim, Brachamim, Unoi San Leichem Lechol Busar, Kili Olam Chazdoi, Kili Olam Chazdoi, Iftivoi Hagudoi, Hagudoi, Tomid Lechol Saloni, Vayechaloni Mozoi, Olam Vuet, Bavo, Shemoi Hagudoi, Hagudoi, Iaizon Fanes Lakoil, Lakoil, Meitiv Lakoil, Mechir Mozoi, Lechol Boyosov, Asher Baruch Atu Adonai.